Growing up, did you ever pinch a younger sibling? I mean, you probably did. Did you ever pinch your younger sibling so hard that they cried? I hope that you didn't, but again, possible. Here's my final question. Did you ever bite your younger sibling so hard that they cried? I really hope not. That would be quite sick. The character that we're going to discuss today has done all three of those things. Meet Caillou.
Introduction. Who is Caillou? What is Caillou? Why is Caillou?
Caillou is that infamous kids' TV programme that children grew up with in the late 90s and noughties. And whilst it was a staple of children's programming back then, it still remains immensely popular today, with episodes on YouTube racking up tens of millions of views. However, despite the show's massive global audience, it remains mired in controversy. Think about it. You've got entire subreddits dedicated to hating on this young character. You have journalists that repeatedly publish articles attacking Caillou and the questionable messages within the show. And third, and probably the most important point, you even have some episodes which are either censored or just outright banned, and we're going to come on to those later in the video. And whilst a lot of this backlash might seem like mere noise, it might seem perhaps a little bit over the top, maybe some would even say a little bit hysterical, there is actually some real substance as to why Caillou remains quite such a problematic program, and indeed such a problematic character. So back in the day, Caillou was immensely popular in countries such as Canada, which is its home country, in the US, and in France. However, many people don't realise that Caillou is actually based on a set of original books. These original books were illustrated by the Quebec artist Hélène Despoutot. For clarification, in the books, Caillou is depicted as a 9-month-old baby, so he's not the 2-year-old that some people seem to believe when you read comments on the internet. And after finding a copy and reading the copy of Caillou Baby Sister, I can confidently say that in the books there is far more shocking elements to them than anything I saw on the TV program when I was growing up with it as a child. So for the purpose of this video, I'll be comparing the Big Brother Caillou TV episode, which aired back in 18th of November 1997, to the Caillou Baby Sister book. So unsurprisingly, both the book Caillou Baby Sister and the TV episode Big Brother Caillou follow a very similar plot. Basically, Rosie arrives into the family, and whilst Caillou is at first excited and uplifted by this soon, Caillou being Caillou after all, this soon turns into jealousy and a feeling that he's being neglected. So Caillou naturally feels frustrated by this. He doesn't like the fact that all of the attention is going on to Rosie, his new sister, and the book kind of sort of deals with this, these feelings of jealousy, these feelings of displacement present within Caillou. And I guess it was meant to be relatable to kids reading the book, right? They may have had a new sibling come along. The new sibling, suddenly, you know, the older sibling isn't the centre of attention anymore. So it was done with that in mind. It was done to kind of be relatable to children having a new sibling coming into their household, which is a feeling that many of us have experienced. So throughout the story, Caillou's emotions shift constantly. They initially start off with excitement about having his new sister, but they quickly turn into jealousy and anger and even rage. And this, of course, has Caillou acting out. We know how he acts out in the TV series. Most of us will have already seen that famous clip of him pinching his little sister so hard that she cries. But actually, in the book, it happens in even more dramatic style, with Caillou picking up a doll that's meant to represent Rosie. It's a doll of a baby girl, after all, and hurling it onto the floor. He also, as I alluded to at the beginning of the video, bites his younger sister. It's more dramatic, it's more violent, it's more Caillou, I guess, than the TV show. We're going to explore the 3 most disturbing differences between the book and the TV series in this video. Before we start, can I just clarify a quick point? Many people online seem to think that the reason that the Caillou TV series feels so strange and bizarre and distorted and in some moments just kind of outright sick is because the TV show ages up Caillou. So in the books, Caillou is a 9-month-old baby, whereas in the TV show, he's 4 years old. So you sort of have this older child acting like a 9-month-old baby, and that's why you have this sort of bizarre character of Caillou. He's sort of a character in a way without a head or a tail. And this actually might be true for literally every other Caillou episode, but it's not the case for the episode we're going to look at today. For the episode we're going to look at today, Caillou is actually 2.5 years old. Okay, so he's still kind of a baby, I guess. That's because this episode serves as a prequel to the other episodes of Caillou. It depicts the arrival of baby Rosie into the Caillou family. So although the age gap still exists, because you have Caillou in the book being 9 months old, whereas you have Caillou in the TV series, in the episode we're going to look at least, being 2.5 years old, it does present a more direct comparison between Book Caillou and TV Caillou. Now, let's dive in.
Disturbing difference 1. Caillou's desire to bite Rosie.
Now we're going to analyse one of the most horrifying moments in the history of children's literature. Caillou leans in and gives his sister a kiss, which seems innocent enough, right? But then the book tells us he goes one step further. He bites. Yes, he bites his baby sister. Rosie immediately starts to cry. I mean, naturally, being bitten is pretty damn unpleasant, let's be honest. And Caillou feels scared. He's scared that he'll get in trouble, that is. The fact that a toddler would resort to biting his newborn sister is a shocking portrayal of jealousy and confusion. It's honestly quite sick how the kiss transforms into a bite. I mean, it clearly demonstrates Caillou's capacity for love and hate in equal measure. In the TV episode, remember, Caillou never actually physically harms Rosie beyond the pinch, which again, like I said, is unacceptable and gross, but he never goes beyond that. In the book, it's where they really ramp up the aggression and add in the biting element. What's even worse is how Caillou's mum responds. She tells Caillou, "You think your sister is sweet enough to eat, but if you do, you'll no longer have her to love. You can bite an apple, but you cannot bite your baby sister." Instead of just firmly telling Caillou flat out that what he did is wrong, she compares baby Rosie to food, which, let's be honest, is a pretty weird and even an unsettling way to address such a serious situation. It's worth mentioning that in the US, the TV episode that showed Caillou's pinch was actually banned from PBS Kids. Parents found the scene to be both disturbing and violent, in particular saying that it set a really bad example for children with infant siblings. So I guess it's a good thing then that the book wasn't a bestseller. There are only 2 Amazon reviews, and it's even quite difficult to find a copy of the book, Caillou Baby Sister, online. Had the book been popular and even entered the mainstream, can you just imagine the backlash and the uproar from parents upon seeing this scene in particular? It would have been way worse than anything that was experienced back in 2006 when there was the backlash from parents about the TV episode.
Fun fact 1.
Caillou means pebble or stone in French. This reflects the character's small size and perhaps his bald head, given the smooth nature of a pebble.
Disturbing difference 2. Caillou's emotional regression.
In the book scene, Caillou's reaction cuts much deeper emotionally than we see in the Big Brother Caillou TV episode. Rather than simply sulking and refusing to interact with his baby sister like we see on TV, Book Caillou completely falls apart emotionally. He wets the bed, he begs his mum to rock him to sleep, and he even demands to drink from a bottle again. And this goes far beyond simple sibling rivalry. I would describe it as a full-scale emotional retreat. Psychologists would refer to this as regression, which is a common defense mechanism children use when they feel completely overwhelmed. With Rosie getting all of the attention, Book Caillou is desperate to be treated like a baby again, which signals for Book Caillou a loss of self-esteem and indeed a loss of security. He's even described as feeling lonely earlier on in the book when he's being looked after by his grandma. In contrast, TV Caillou acts out in different ways. Some would say he acts out in a more subtle way. For example, he avoids his sister, he refuses to bond with his sister, and he completely refuses to help when asked by his parents.
Would you like to rock the baby, Caillou?
Whilst this behaviour is actually typical of an older sibling, Book Caillou's behaviour suggests a far deeper emotional crisis. TV Caillou's resistance feels more like, in this instance, a more natural way of adjusting to his new role within the family. However, Book Caillou's full-on regression highlights just how destabilizing this new arrival of Rosie as a member of the family is for him emotionally. He's not just merely frustrated, he's actually trying to reclaim his spot as baby of the family. This actually makes the book's portrayal more disturbing than that of the TV series, because the TV series doesn't really scratch the surface of this level of insecurity coming out of Book Caillou. Book Caillou genuinely seems to fear being completely replaced by the new arrival of baby Rosie.
Fun fact too.
Caillou wears a yellow shirt and red dungarees in the TV episode. It's strikingly similar to that of Stewie Griffin out of Family Guy, and I wonder, was Stewie Griffin based somewhat on Caillou? I mean, there has been an overlap between Family Guy and Caillou in the past. Let's take a look at this little clip.
I've been hanging out with Caillou's beta dad. In fact, I'm meeting him at the park to eat unsalted saltines on the swings. I feel like you're wearing what Rachel Maddow would wear to a pumpkin patch.
Which character is more psychopathic, Stewie or Caillou? I guess we'll save that deliberation for another video, but smash that like button if it's something that you'd be interested in me checking out in the future.
Disturbing difference 3. The violent doll incident.
In the book, Caillou's frustration manifests in a violent and indeed a shocking way. Upon realising that Rosie is now the centre of attention and he won't be getting quite so much attention as he used to as an only child, Caillou grabs a doll that's meant to represent Rosie in the book and hurls it into the air. However, Caillou's rage does not end there. He picks up the doll, and this is explicitly described in the book, and then hurls it smack against the wall. I mean, for a book aimed at toddlers, it's a surprisingly violent act. In the TV episode, Caillou does throw his doll to the floor, but it lacks the intensity and violence seen in the book, where he slams it against the wall. Moreover, the connection between the doll and his baby sister is made more explicit in the book, symbolising his anger toward Rosie, whereas the TV episode omits this direct link. The book, on the other hand, pushes the boundaries further. By having Caillou act out his fury on the doll, it hints at, for Caillou, a more underlying, more destructive anger within him. It has to be said, I mean, I truly believe the author is pushing the boundaries, and in turn, that's blurring the lines. She's showing sort of the closest thing that she can to Caillou actually throwing his little sister without actually showing that, because that would be cancelled by literally everyone. Whilst I understand the intention of using the doll to represent the frustrations of having a new sibling come into your house, I believe it's somewhat irresponsible to assume that a young reader will appreciate this subtle difference. So by throwing his baby sister doll against the wall, the author is hinting at a deeper, more destructive side to Caillou that the TV episodes never dares to explore. This indeed raises serious questions about Caillou's behaviour and whether he's even more troubled in the book than he is in the TV show.
Conclusion. The Forgotten Evil of Book Caillou.
So, while the Caillou TV episode may have had its fair share of eyebrow-raising moments, the Caillou Baby Sister book takes it to a whole new level. Who would have thought that the infamous TV episode that outraged and shocked the world upon its release was actually far more reasonable than the book upon which this TV episode was based? From the violent outbursts with the doll to Caillou literally biting his baby sister, coupled together with Caillou's total emotional regression, the book paints a far darker picture of Caillou's psyche. Personally, for me, there's literally no surprise at all in my mind that that TV episode was banned way back in 2006. I mean, consider it from a parent's perspective. Who on earth is going to want their kid absorbing that kind of behaviour? But here's the thing. Despite all of this controversy, Caillou remains wildly popular. Cartoon Network's new preschool channel, Cartoonito, even airs the Big Brother Caillou episode, albeit with the pinching incident edited out. Instead of pulling the episode completely, which, let's be honest, they could have done, they chose to edit out the offending scene, meaning that fans can still watch their beloved bald darling. The book, on the other hand, has been largely forgotten. I mean, Caillou fans themselves barely mention it. Smash that subscribe button if you would like me to delve back into the depths of the internet to dig out another Caillou original book, which I can then compare to the TV equivalent. I'm more than happy to do so. Snipe, snap, out.